37. Here he is throwing in the middle. It's caught by Watson. He's got great speed. Turning the corner. Christian Watson down the sideline. And he will score. Whoa. Hang on. Love to Watson. To a one-score game.
This one is the stunner. You basically feel like, all right, this Eagles team sort of has this thing under control, and then Christian Watson hits the Jets again. 6 touchdowns now in the last 3 games. He is really something. When he gets in the open field and running, that was some throw by Jordan Love, too.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you'd like to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 865-658-5824. We're live on YouTube and Twitter. For those of you listen to us on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. I'm joined tonight with Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. Ryan Schlipp may be hopping on here in a second. We were scheduled to have him on, but you know how it is, man. He's raising 35 children and trying to maintain a marriage where he's as carnivorous as they come, and his wife is a vegetarian, from the best of my understanding. So I can only imagine what that's like on the home front. I can't believe you spilled those beans, Jacob. I heard that. I was like, man, that gives me hope for the entire world.
Yeah. No, it was that's kind of like reminds me of my my grandparents. They were together for 70 years, and they were diehard Democrat, diehard Republican, and it was awkward as heck. But we're like, somehow you make it work. Good for you. All right, let's go. Yeah,
I grew up in a house where, obviously a long time ago, the parties have somewhat changed and all that. And my mother was not the most the most political person, but she was a Democrat, and my dad didn't have a clue what was going on, just to be honest with you. He was running around with Seagram 7 riding Harleys and didn't really care about the political realm, but that's a story for another day. So let's do this, man. Let's kind of lay out what we're going to do here tonight. Obviously, we're live on YouTube and Twitter. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. And, we're just going to kind of talk about a weekly recap here. And you see Jordan Love in the title for a reason. Jacob, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about Jordan Love, dude. And I'm getting excited because these are people that I respect. These are people that I don't always agree with, but I understand they've been around the game of football for a very long time, both at the collegiate and National Football League level. And I don't know, man, it's exciting to hear people kind of come around, because when this whole Aaron Rodgers trade, happened, what did we hear? It was just, what are the Packers going to do now? We're going back to the 70s and 80s, blah, 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 blah. Now you're starting to hear people like Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, 38-year front office executive and scout Michael Lombardi, Greg Cosell, who's been with NFL Films since the 70s, Keyshawn Johnson, who was just an unbelievable wide receiver at the NFL level. And then, like you mentioned to me earlier, you shared a clip with me where David Carr was kind of talking them up a little bit, talking about the Packers, how they could be a little bit underrated. And we got Mr. Green on the line. We'll go to him in just a second. But what do you think, man? It's kind of exciting to see this top train get a little bit rolling, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Ryan talks about a lot. It's just really weird to me. I've never seen a first-round draft pick quarterback that has gotten more hate than Jordan Love for no undue reason. I mean, if anything, like we've said, he's shown strides, quote unquote, as if it's a bad thing to take strides. I mean, I don't know. One thing, we didn't talk about this. Did you hear, I saw an article the other day that Jordan Love has been training with Ocho Cinco.
Really? Oh.
Did you see that?
I did.
No, that's a legit thing. I looked it up. Yeah. And honestly, I thought about it and I'm like, well, that won't help him at all, but it will, because he's a wide receiver. It'll help him with some, but it will help his ego, his swagger, if you will, that confidence. We need him to get a little more bravado.
Yeah. I actually heard him on a podcast the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but one of the listeners shared it with me on Twitter. And he was really, really laid back. And now this podcast was very loose. They were kind of, they were using a lot of colorful language. It kind of caught me off guard. I didn't hear Jordan speak like that, but just hearing him in a relaxed environment where he sounded like he was just talking to one of the boys, it's like, this dude's got some confidence. And he talked about when it kind of clicked and he realized, hey, look, I can play at the next level. I am talented. It's exciting. But we're joined here on the line by Mr. Green. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Hey, Clayton. How's it going?
Oh, doing great, man. Doing great. We appreciate you hopping on with us, dude. So I know we chatted a little bit offline, man. What you got going on this week? What's on your mind? There's a lot of Packers talk, surprisingly, for such a dead week in the offseason, right?
Yeah, amen. I'll tell you what. You know what I just did is I just secured my tickets for the third preseason game against Seattle.
Nice.
So I'm gonna try and get to both of the games at Lambeau this year, but at least I got the last one secured. So I'll get week 2 right away.
Good stuff. Yeah. I've never been to a preseason game, but, I think I would enjoy that because when I go to Green Bay, like I've talked about many, many times, when I go to a game in Green Bay, it can be a little bit stressful. Me and Jacob kind of seen that firsthand, right? We went to a game together this year and, and, you always want, the team to come out on top. And sometimes it's not as enjoyable when it's a close game, this and that. But a preseason game, I feel like it's like, who cares who wins? Let's just kind of lay back, drink a couple cold beers, and watch the ball game, right?
That's exactly right, Clayton, because that's what I love about the preseason. The weather's always better. You can wear some shorts and a T-shirt at Lambeau, relax. And, people know that obviously the outcomes don't mean anything, but these preseason games are just I'm one of them guys. I do believe that they're important. I agree. We don't need months and months and months of preseason football, but I think it's important, especially with a team like our Packers, to get good evaluation on a lot of these young players. And the only way to do that is to see that full game live speed. Well, at least as close as you can get to it.
Yeah.
So preseason is always awesome. Looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad in the chat said, "You guys prove that I'm not completely insane. Sitting here grilling on the back deck, thinking about this team." Tell you earlier today, man, I was working out in the yard, got that done, right? Came in, got cleaned up, went chilled in the pool for about an hour, then ate some brisket, passed out on the couch, slipped into a complete carb coma. I was eating mac and cheese and brisket and all that stuff. Ryan down there grinning like a possum in a dumpster. He knows exactly what I'm talking about, dude. How you doing tonight, Ryan?
Good, man. I don't know why I thought you said 6:30, and I'm on Twitter, and I'm like, dude, they're live right now. What the heck is going on? So, yeah, I do know what you feel like because I'm sitting here and I'm having some stomach issues from a little too much food. So, part of the reason I was hoping I get another 30 minutes to digest, but I'll muscle through it.
No.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't have many stomach issues. I got an iron gut, but I'll tell you what, my back is hurting since joining this network because I put on the weight. And bro, it's trying to haul that extra weight around is tough. But Mr. Green, man, before we let you go, is there anything you want to cover? Anything you want to talk about here, dude? You're right there in Green Bay on the east side, holding it down. Maybe what's the vibe like right up there? This time of year, right now, and is there anything that's kind of on your mind about this team?
I definitely think, just playing off what you guys were saying about our quarterback, I think it vacillates between the fear of the unknown and sheer unadulterated optimism when it comes to J Love. And I fall into the sheer unadulterated optimism.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I got a feeling about this guy, and I'll leave it at that. We're not going to know until we really see him doing it. So I'm just looking forward to it. And I think the vibe here is the same. I mean, people are excited about this year. Not that we're not excited every year for Packers football, but I think the unknown is what makes it so exciting. And I'm just really looking forward to it, guys. It's going to be a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg Cosell said something very similar. I was listening to his pod with Ross Tucker earlier, and they were talking about Love, and he said, there's a lot of questions around Love, right? The first thing he said is he's extremely talented. He said he's got a great arm. He's got great arm talent, everything you want in an NFL quarterback from arm talent, standpoint. But he said these are some of the questions he asked Ross, just rapid fire, and going, hey, look, nobody really knows what we have in Jordan Love until we get out there and see some live gameplay. But he said, how does he see things in key situations? Does he see the field well? Can he play with timing? Does he have precise ball location? He definitely has a talented arm, but they do have young receivers. Can he be consistent? Those are the things that he brung up. And if he can be consistent, and it's funny, me and Ryan were talking about this just the other day. If you'll remember Ryan talking about the Kurt Warner breakdown, a lot of those questions that Greg Cosell asked, granted, it's in a very, very small sample size, but, Kurt Warner kind of answered those for us. He talks about how he understood the offense. You could tell he understands the offense. He knows his pre-snap keys. He's got great timing. He's got great anticipation in that small sample size we've seen. He's extremely accurate when he plants his back foot, all those things. It's a small sample size. We've got to say it 1,000 times. It's important to mention it. But from what we've seen, I think he kind of checks out pretty well with what Greg Cosell was asking, right, Ryan?
Yep, I think so. I'll leave it at that.
All right, there you go.
Sorry.
All right, Mr. Green, we're going to let you get out of here, dude. Anything else you want to add before you go, brother?
Thanks as always for having me, guys. I appreciate it. And I'll be tuned in to the rest of the stream. Go Pack Go as usually.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time, buddy.
Thank you,
sir. All right, guys. Have a good one.
See you. All right, so Elevated Shine in the chat. I need to read these before I post them.
No, it's an office quote. He's making fun of Ryan.
Why waste time saying a lot of words when a few words do the trick? Hey, there you go.
Kevin Malone. Big talk.
Every time anybody, whether it's on Ryan's pod or not, when y'all bring up Kevin Malone, all I can see is him dropping that chili and trying to scoop it up with the manila photo, right, and trying to get it back in.
I had a coworker real quick at the restaurant I work at. He comes in early because he's a great guy. He'll come in like an hour and a half early, and he makes a staff meal for everybody because he loves cooking. And he spent like 45 minutes like roasting all this stuff and preparing all these dishes, and he was loading it into the oven, and he used like a flimsy tray, and it poured it down onto himself, and then he like fell on. It was so Kevin Malone. I tried to record it on our security system and send it to him in a file, but I don't know if it works yet.
Dude, there's no better show, man. The dynamic of that show. I mean, and I was like 5 years late to it, right? I didn't watch it until it was like season 6. And I'm going, all right, let me give this a shot. That's just how I operate. Let me give this a shot. Now I'm still watching it on loop. It's unbelievable. Ryan, on your pod this week, you did a lot of roster evaluation. By the way, man, freaking love that content. That stuff is right. That's right down my alley right there. One of the things that I came away from was the offensive line, right? And how you kind of broke down where everybody's grades fall according to PFF and how people, what position people played well at. It sounds like as of right now, if you had to pick a left tackle of the future, it's probably Zach Tom as far as what's on the roster right now if Bach was gone. Would you agree with that, or did I misunderstand you?
I have a feeling that's where it's heading. I think my preference would be Elton Jenkins. I know I'm in the minority on that, but I genuinely think he is a very good left tackle. I know he struggled at the start of this year, but I think he just struggled generally because of the injury. Yeah. I think he is a very high-quality left tackle, and if we can have him left and Zach right, I think that would be ideal, and we'll figure out the left guard situation. But I do think that's probably going to be what they want to do is move Zach and keep Elton inside is my thought on what they're going to try to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, you always want your best offensive lineman on that blind side, right? If at all possible, if it's interchangeable. When it comes to Elton, the money he's being paid, let's say Bach isn't on the roster next year, and he's definitely not going to be on the roster at that $40 million cap hit, whatever it is. It's something insane. I don't have it pulled up right now, but you're probably going to see the Packers. If I had to put money on it right now, they're going to free up roughly $20 million next year, depending on how he's moved, if he retires, if they just cut him outright, restructure, whatever it is. If that's the case, the fact that you would have Elton Jenkins, a healthy Elton Jenkins, roughly 2 years removed from the ACL surgery, playing left tackle at the price tag that he's on, that's a huge, huge discount, right? I mean, that's pretty exciting. It gives you a salary cap to kind of maneuver around some other things. And we know they're absolutely crushing the wide receiver room right now because that I think we're the cheapest wide receiver room in the entire NFL, where other teams are really, really going expensive right now. But Jacob, what do you think, man, about the offensive line? Is that your preference too? Do you think Elton would probably be the best choice at left tackle? Would it be Zach Tom? What are you thinking, man? I know you're probably going to say Jake Hansen, but let's try to curb the enthusiasm on Jake Hansen.
To be honest, I would love to see Zach Tom there just because it seems like he can do a little bit of everything, and I want to see if he can be that. We know that Elton can take care of left guard. We know he can take care of a lot of other positions, but a stat that I saw today, which is incredible to me, is that the oldest player on the Green Bay Packers team is 33 or 32. I can't remember exactly. And it's either Pat O'Donnell or it's David Bakhitiari. So that means that the offensive line is so ridiculously young that, to me, I mean, it's just basically I'm just very bullish on it, I guess. I don't really know. I'm not worried for the first time going into a season, because if maybe we throw Tom at center, I've even heard there's some rumblings about that. I've heard that there's possible that Caleb Jones could maybe sneak in there at right tackle, or Yash Nijman. You know, there's such a different group of guys that it's like I'm really excited. I've also heard that there's been, maybe it's kind of leaching into a different topic, but like they've been taking Luke Van Ness and obviously having him do reps on the edge and stuff, but they've also been putting him inside, and he's been apparently blowing Rice Newman like out of his position just on his bull rush. So if that's the case, then maybe we need to shore up our guards a bit. I don't know. So it's nice to know that we can plug and play. Obviously this stuff isn't full pads, so take that all with a grain of salt, but it's just nice to know that we have options, and it feels like we have a lot of chess pieces we can move around.
Yeah, gotcha. Goat Mike Hoopin Channel, all right, says, I'm a huge fan of the Packers, almost 30 years. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us, man, for sure. And let's see here. Simon in the chat says, Jenkins, he literally said that. 8, you even listening to the pod? Laughing emoji. Just giving you a hard time. Did Elton Jenkins come out and say that? I missed that part.
I think he meant me on the pod.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Never mind, man. All right, I'm trying to keep up with my little pea brain over here. Let's see here. In the chat, Mike says, we're going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think we can be better than the Lions, but our O-line needs to play big. I think that's the key. And you know, one of the things that kind of, I don't want to say it caught me off guard, but you really highlighted well, Ryan, was the Packers are just focused on pass blocking, it seems like. Are they not, man? I mean, when they sign offensive linemen, when they draft offensive linemen, it's all about, hey, look, just pass block, we'll figure the running thing out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe that would change, and it kind of seemed like it was going to when Matt LaFleur showed up, and all of a sudden David Bakhitiari is a really good run blocker. It's like, all right, we're going to see a change, but he's like the only one that can run block. So, I mean, I'm not mad at it. If you got to pick, go pass blocking, and maybe that's just the way our coaching staff is and whatnot. I don't really know the reason, but I do wish we had this big, powerful road grading offensive line, but I'm certainly not going to complain about some really good pass blockers.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Mike in the chat says, our run defense must step up. Joe Barry needs to be fired if he doesn't step up. I'm so serious. I know Michael Lombardi, man, this I shared an audio clip. I'm sure you've seen it, Jacob, on Twitter. It got some pretty good run. It had some legs on it, but it reached the Bears fans, which that's a success. He was saying, you know, this, when healthy, this defense is good. And he talked about how the things we talked about last week, you know, that down the stretch, those last, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6 games where the defense really stepped up. And I was kind of running some numbers, Mike, and this was very interesting to me. As far as expected points added / allowed, you know, the effectiveness of both offense and defense from a defensive standpoint, the glaring hole is rush defense. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the offseason last year, I pointed out on my pod where Greg Cosell was saying it's blatantly obvious that NFL head coaches and defensive coordinators are literally saying, we will allow them to run the football. We're just going to stop the pass and limit the explosive plays in the passing game. And, you know, our EPA as far as rush defense was 0.026. It was 28th in the league. However, pass defense, the EPA was 0.019, which was 11th best. So we were right there at the borderline of a top 10 pass defense. Keep in mind, think of all the time that Rashawn Gary missed too. Think of Devondre Campbell being hurt. And that's why Michael Lombardi said, if healthy, this can be a really good defense. And then the points allowed, of course, was 371 points allowed. That was 17th best in the league. That's not going to cut it, but think of all of the turnovers too. That was the rarity of last year. Aaron Rodgers throwing interceptions when we weren't used to Aaron Rodgers throwing interceptions. Of course, we fumbled the ball plenty of times as well. It's all going to come down to that turnover differential. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's going to be the key statistic to whether or not this team does well this year. Ryan, did you see that video I shared of Michael Lombardi going on his little rant, kind of talking about the Packers and the Bears?
I started it. I didn't finish it. It's on my list.
Gotcha. It's that whole podcast was that whole segment was really, really good. And it's funny because Bears fans and even Pat McAfee said it. Oh, you just hate Bears. You know, Bears fans are going to say you're just hating on the Bears. You're just hating. No, he hated on the Packers 2 years ago. I remember
say he's been pretty negative on the Packers. I'm surprised and happy to see that he's kind of coming around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. Simon in the chat says, good point on the wide receiver money. It would be fun to get a break out of the cap. by position versus NFL average. If only there was a Packers pod out there.
Take that as a shot.
Yeah, might be. Andy in the chat, which Andy's going to join us here in a minute. Andy, if you can hear me right now, bro, just hop on that link that I shared in the group chat there at any point. He says starting the season with our preferred O-line will be a nice change. That's another thing that we forget about, right? I mean, when we came out of camp last year, it was a freaking mess. I mean, we were still sitting there. What we Jacob going is I think Bach's healthy. Bach's going to play. You know, they made it sound as if
this is the week. This is the week.
And it's going to be huge, man. That and the defensive line. Kenny Clark, I don't know, man. I feel like I'm a Kenny Clark basher, and I don't mean to be. But you have got to have a 3-tech, which I think Devonte Wyatt's going to play more 3 technique than Kenny. But you got to be able to push the pocket from the interior. And one of the things that Greg Cosell talked about on his pod was he really expected them to use Lucas Van Ness as an inside rusher, especially in passing situations. That's kind of where I got my information from when we first drafted him. Excuse me. And now he's saying that he's hearing out of Green Bay that they're strictly utilizing him as an outside pass rusher, as an edge defender, and that kind of caught him off guard. But I love Greg Cosell. He's been a part of NFL films since the 70s, and what did he say? How did he respond? He responded with, "But they see him every day. They know more than me, so obviously they're seeing something on the edge that they see very valuable." Now I know that whatever random Twitter handle you want to insert on Twitter understands football better than the Packers front office and Greg Cosell. But I don't know, man. That was a little bit like, okay, if they're not going to use them on the interior as much, and Greg Cosell is not just going to say that. Someone from 1265 Lombardi has shared that information with them. That means they feel really good about Devonte Wyatt. That gets me excited. That gets me very excited. When you broke down the defense, Ryan, what did you come away with Devonte Wyatt? Did you come away very encouraged? Because that's kind of what I see when I look at the tape.
Yeah, no, I like Wyatt. I think people get discouraged because we set really high expectations. I know it's a sin to say temper your expectations. That means they're garbage and they're always going to be terrible forever. But I think people set really high expectations about him coming out of Georgia, being this elite pass rusher, and he wasn't utilized as much, and his stats weren't as high as they were supposed to be. But you look at his overall grade. You look at especially, if you watch some of the plays he made, some of the stuff he was able to do was just shocking. I mean, the way he throws offensive linemen around, him chasing people from behind. I remember doing a video on that. Like, dude, I took a screenshot before he actually took off running. I said, "Here's Wyatt. Here's the quarterback. What if I told you he actually caught him from behind?" I mean, it's stupid stuff. So he's like everybody else. He's got to work on his technique. He's got to refine some stuff. But he really showed some stuff that not a lot of people can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, man. All right, on the line, we got Andy Monday. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm pretty good.
Good. Well, we appreciate you calling in, dude. It's good to hear from you. Now, you're out in Kansas. Is that right, Andy? Am I thinking right?
Yeah. When I call into the show, and by the way, thanks for more than 3 minutes. I'm going to probably just stop talking after 3 minutes because I won't know what to do. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I always introduce myself as Andy, still stuck in Kansas.
Gosh. We got to get you out of there, man. Come on, dude. What do we got to do? We got to get a horse and carriage out there to haul you out, or what?
Yeah, don't go on the dirt roads. They're terrible. I get to go up to Wisconsin. All my family, all the side of my family is all up there. So we were just up there last week.
Gotcha.
And then I go in the fall time also.
Yeah, Andy, just so you guys know, he's giving me all kinds of inside advice on what to do in Door County. That's my next trip. I'm trying to get up to Door County when it's warm weather. It's just so hard, Andy, for me not to go up there when it's snowing, dude. I just love Green Bay in the winter. That's when I want to be up there, is just when it is colder than a well digger's booty, man. That's my dig there. So
yeah, I mean, I remember, you just telling about how you came across. You didn't come across Green Bay. You came across the Packers, and then you came across Green Bay. So the Packers will always be the leading story.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No doubt about it. It's so funny how I stumbled across being a fan of the Green Bay Packers. Like, it just thin threads. If I hadn't found that DVD, I probably wouldn't be a Packers fan today, which is just crazy to think about. But what do you want to talk about, man? What's on your mind tonight? How you feeling about the Packers this year, or just anything? You got the floor, dude.
Well, yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting just because, changing of the guard, you never know what to expect. Thank you again, Ryan. You've repeated several times. I remember calling several years ago, way back when I think I was the only person calling the show. That was several years ago, and I called like every day. Anyway, just the whole thing about, we can't have Jordan Love be a great quarterback because you can't have 3 in a row, and that doesn't make any sense mathematically. I mean, but so, there's obviously that's coming into play. Nobody knows exactly how that's going to be, but your guys just show up said, well, an unknown is not a negative, so let's see how that goes. I just think that there's so many other possibilities outside of just the quarterback. I mean, the 49ers have been perennial, Super Bowl contenders. So they haven't had a quarterback for a long time.
It's a good point.
A very long time.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense. I think the fact that there are a half dozen guys going into year 2 who could all break out from the same draft class, that's incredible.
Yeah. No, it really is. It really is. And you know what Greg Cosell was talking about with Jordan Love is, he absolutely loves Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. He thinks it's one of, if not the best backfields in the entire National Football League. He was also high on Tay Wicks coming out of college. He said if you go back and watch his 2021 tape, phenomenal tape. And he just talked about, Jordan Love's got a talented arm. So, you can have arm talent and all that, but if you don't have someone who's going to kind of lead the charge and keep things directed in the proper path. The one thing that excites me, Jacob, is, Matt LaFleur. I'm eager to see what he does without Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers or, Matt LaFleur, think about this. I was thinking about this earlier today. What other coach in the National Football League has this kind of resume? He was the quarterback's coach in Atlanta when Matt Ryan won the MVP. Matt LaFleur was. He comes to Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers wins back-to-back MVPs. So he's got 3 MVP quarterbacks under his belt, right? And it's easy to sit here and go, okay, quiet Matt LaFleur, he's buddy, and he's not, whatever. You can't deny the fact that he has had a vital role in 3 MVP performances at the quarterback position, man. I don't know, dude. I'm not going to be surprised if we look up, Jacob, here in a year or two and go, Jordan Love's a top 5 quarterback, and Matt LaFleur's all of a sudden the new Bruce Arians, right? The new quarterback whisperer. What do you think, man? What kind of confidence you have in Matt LaFleur developing Jordan Love?
So it's not only a Matt LaFleur thing. As you're talking about that, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like Matt LaFleur is going to be justified. But I feel like Matt LaFleur already is a bit justified because, I mean, the guy, he put on multiple 13-win seasons. And people say it's with Aaron Rodgers, and obviously it's with the MVP. But that, again, should only be, again, like Ryan says, like, why would you think that it's because that Aaron Rodgers leaves that Jordan Love will be bad? Well, why is that? Because Matt LaFleur is the same coach who's going to be bringing up Jordan Love. And if you were to be consistent, that means that in theory, Jordan Love is going to have some success. We have Tom Clements. We have other quarterback coaches that he's been through. We have a lot of young wide receivers that have an amazing talent base. We have Aaron Jones, who could possibly be a running back one, and I'm talking in fantasy football things, but think of, like, if you're thinking that Jordan Love only can dump off balls and that kind of stuff, well, who better to do it to than Aaron Jones? I mean, the guy is a freak. He averages 5.5 yards basically every single time he touches the ball. In addition to that, you look at what this means this year, not only to LaFleur, but for Gutekunst. Because if you think about this year, if Love succeeds, that means everything that Gutekunst has done basically in the last tenure of his employment is good. If Vaness comes up, he's a genius. If Walker takes a step, he's a genius. If Wyatt takes a step, he's a genius. If Watson, if all these guys, this whole team's success is going to basically make Gutekunst and LaFleur look like they're absolute geniuses, because 1, it'll be Gutekunst's team, and 2, it'll be LaFleur's new team that he has no Rodgers taking control of. So it's only them, it's only Gutekunst, it's only LaFleur, and it's only the new young breed of team. And I think that's amazing, and it's really fun to think about.
No, it definitely is, dude. Daryl in the chat said Love needs all the protection he can get. Jones and Dillon can handle their own. I ran some other stats here and kind of tried to narrow this down, Ryan, to say, okay, what did Green Bay really key in on the running game that was so effective, right? Why did they have – I think they had 2 backs, right? Both of them averaged over 5 yards a carry, if I remember correctly. So they were very effective on the ground. The rushing offense was, from EPA standpoint, was .008. They were 10th best in the league. Their passing offense was .011 EPA. They were 16th. And then, of course, points scored 370. They were 14th in points scored. We know that number should have been higher, but the turnovers played a big role in that. But as far as a schematic standpoint, they ran outside zone 36% of the time. So the wide zone boot is alive and well in Green Bay. They're running outside zone the majority of the time. That tied fifth most in the entire NFL. And then they ran pin and pull 14% of the time. That they actually ran pin and pull the second most of any other running situation, running schematic, however you want to word it, than anything else they ran. And they were tied for third in the league, running that the most. What do you think, as far as the running game this year? Do you think that they will lean on the run more? Do you think it will be as effective? Do you think teams will start to load the box and try to take the run away from Jordan Love? What do you think?
I mean, I'm a little bit more skeptical, but only because I've been bitten on this so many times. Every year since Matt LaFleur got here, this is the year. This is the year we're going to start running more. We're going to start doing this. Every year we say that, and every year we're wrong. And I get it. Well, we have a reason. We've always had a reason, right? Well, Rodgers left, so now it's different. Maybe. I don't know. I thought we had plenty of reasons in the past to do it too, but, maybe – I mean, listen, at the end of the day, passing is still the best way to win football games.
$50 million.
Yeah. Well, but realistically, we all know that passing is how you win football games, right? And so I think even for a guy that really appreciates running the ball, unless he feels he needs to run the ball because Jordan Love is not really ready to handle a lot, I think if Jordan Love can handle it, you want to put more on his shoulders. I don't necessarily think because of his scheme he wants to be more 50-50 or whatever kind of run pass. I think everybody fully understands that passing is how you win. And if that dude can pass and the passing is working, I think we're going to do a lot of it. And that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the defensive front that they show, right? There's a lot of that maneuvering that goes on within a game and the play calling sequence. A lot of times when you've seen that pin and pull, and the reason I think they got the 14% was because they were trying to overload one side of the formation, whether it was Rodgers or it was a built-in check at the line, what have you. They went to pin and pull, and it was pretty effective. But Andy, before we let you go, man, is there anything else you want to hit on? Is there any questions you got? Anything you're excited about? You got the floor, brother.
I think that if you just think about when was Rodgers most successful during LaFleur's time, it was when he was running the most LaFleur-like offense during that time. I'm talking 2020. I don't think it was ever truly a LaFleur offense, but when he was at his best, you could see him buying into that, and that's over more than one season. It was happening at the end of 2019, especially if you watch that Seahawks playoff game. You could see that was different from the rest of the regular season. I really think 2020 we saw it, and even into some of 2021 we saw it, which just gives the correct credit to Matt LaFleur. If Love can learn to just make the pass and not have to try and make the whole play, I don't see why he can't be successful. We already know that Jones and Dillon are highly successful, very efficient. And if you can use those guys to buy another set of downs, then Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur can kind of pick where they want to, use that weapon throughout. If teams are wondering, hey, we should test this guy by blitzing, bring it on, because what happened to the screen game? We haven't seen a really healthy screen game, I think, for a while with Aaron Jones, with Dillon. We've seen it at times, but not as a true weapon, I don't think. So really, between now and training camp, there's a long dead period. So I just think that people should find things that they actually like about football. And maybe that starts with doing what you can to kind of flush away the bad memories of the last few seasons. I think that they tend to build up. Most fans are men, and men tend to build things up. That's why men are considered to be angry for the most part. I think there's ways of doing it that are not unmanly. I would suggest this, and this is probably going to be hard for a lot of people. Go back and actually watch the playoff losses. Yeah. Do it. Put them to bed. Like, truly put them to bed. And not only for your own sake, but for the sake of closing off the Aaron Rodgers legacy, right? Actually watch the games. We have this idea that 2021, Aaron Rodgers didn't look like he wanted to play that game. That's true. Neither did anybody on the special teams, okay? But that doesn't mean that don't fall into the revisionist history of, well, that means all the other playoff losses, Rodgers was terrible. People who said, for example, that 2021 playoff game, you can't play that poorly at quarterback and win playoff games. Garoppolo did in the same game. So yes, you can win and play poorly.
That's true.
Go back and watch them, right? Figure out, like, actually get the details and say, look, this is the story of what happened. The 2014 NFC Championship game, people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. But that's what you have to do. Otherwise, you're always going to look at it through the eyes of, well, I went to a work party as soon as that game was over. That was not an easy work party to go to, especially because I made the mistake of, like, 15 minutes earlier. I remember whispering to one of my sons, hey, I think we're going to the Super Bowl. Oh, that was a bad idea. But so there's things to do during this dead period, and get back to the things that you really like about football, whether it's just grabbing a bunch of statistics and rolling around in Packers records and saying, wow, I can't believe we had this guy and he did these things, old memories that you have of, games that you just remember watching on TV when Yancey Thigpen dropped the touchdown catch at the finale of the 95 season. My brother Yuri and I, we jumped up out of the basement. This is when we lived in Wisconsin, out the front door and ran around the house. It's snow all over the ground. We didn't have shoes on. We were probably half dressed anyway, but like just different memories of that kind of stuff. I mean, if I get a chance to come back on again, I was a foreign exchange student. So being a Packers fan in that scenario might add something to one of these shows if you ever want that one.
Yeah.
That's a unique one because I don't think you probably heard something like that before. But
I got to be honest, man, when you were talking about, this advice for a clean slate, I thought you were going to suggest an ayahuasca cleanse or something. I got a little bit nervous. I was like, not on the show, Andy, not on the show. I don't know what you guys are growing out there in Kansas, but we don't do that.
I want you to have more memories, not fewer.
No, all very well said. And as we let you go here, man, I want to thank you for hopping on, dude. You're welcome anytime. You'll always have
Andy's
the link.
The best.
Jump on a chat with
Great.
us.
Okay.
I'll tell you this, as you were talking about that fig pin drop and all that, you can go to this is what I like to do this time of year is go to YouTube and just look at the old Packer games. They've got a ton of them. And the commentary is freaking hilarious to see how far it's come. Like hearing two middle-aged white guys try to sound cool in the early 90s is freaking hilarious. I'm just telling you right now. I'm
just glad my boys know that John Madden doesn't just make video games that he used to play around on the TV screen like we all wish we could. Like,
bro,
that's the guy? Yeah, that's the guy.
I love anything him and Pat Summerall are calling. I can listen to it all night long.
It's the best.
Love it. And it's funny because at the time, Andy, we're going to let you go, dude. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Andy.
Have a good night.
buddy. At the time when John Madden was calling games, I was always like, God, stop drawing on the screen, dude. Like, seriously, shut up for a minute, right? And then the second he's gone, it's like, man, I miss John Madden, dude. I miss him calling the game. I guess you grew up in the same time frame, right, Ryan? You heard a lot of Madden calling games, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s. I was there. I saw it. I miss him for sure.
No, he was
I'm
the
the
man.
same age as you guys. What are you talking about?
What'd you say, Jake?
I'm the same age as y'all. What are you talking about?
I think Clayton's 50, I'm 40, and you're 19.
Is that really how you think of it?
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm feeling 50, man. Let's get back to the chat here. John Dorn
Look at day over 49.
Yeah. John Dorn in the chat says Packers will attack the middle of the field. They haven't in the past. That's a fact. We've talked about that on here. The statistics kind of show how they've gotten away from the middle of the field. I'm excited to see them kind of open that up. Mike in the chat says Jordan Love ability to run will force the defense to play up, which will get guys open downfield because they will spy on him. Rodgers became a statue, which defenses didn't have to worry about him running. Dude, that's a fact. When Rodgers was most effective, Ryan, he had some wheels on him, dude. And it wasn't early in his career, it wasn't let me create some separation to make this awesome pass. He would take off and run for 30, 40, 50 yards, right?
Yeah.
I think that's something that we're probably underestimating as Packer fans when it comes to Jordan Love. And another thing too, Ryan, the read option, man, I'm not going to be surprised if they break the read option out a little bit. Could you imagine they come out in a set where I don't care if it's 12, if it's 11 personnel or 12 personnel, you'll have a trips look and you'll have a nub tight end on the right. Let's just say on the right. And I'm paint a picture for you here. And imagine them loading up trying to cover the outside zone, right? And now they've got all this 2022 tape of pin and pull. So not only do they have to kind of guard the outside edge on the tight end side, but they've got to look for the pull and pin on the back out the back door. And then all of a sudden he tucks one, runs a read option and takes it around the corner. I will hit my damn head on the ceiling fan if we see Jordan Love start to run a little bit of read option. So what do you think, man? Yeah, I don't even know. Jacob, see if you can pull this up on your app on the phone. Do they have any kind of prop bets for Jordan Love as far as rushing yards for the season? Is any of that up right now? And Ryan, what do you think about Jordan Love's ability to run the ball?
Well, maybe it was Warner, but somebody was doing like a film breakdown thing showing a few of his plays, and they busted that out from the preseason. I didn't even remember it, but he had some kind of a read option, and he just took off running around the corner. And I mean, it wasn't a 50-yard game, but I think he got about 8 in the first down, and it kind of clicked because he was talking about it like we might see more of that. And I was like, I didn't even really think about that. I spent so much time trying to tell people like don't expect him to be like Fields because he's not that fast and all that. I forget. No, he's still athletic though, So and like you said, even with Aaron Rodgers, you don't have to run a 4.4 to be able to do some damage with your legs. So I think that is going to be a little bit of an extra part of it, and maybe even if it's just once in a while down by the goal line or something, I'm jacked to be able to see that. You know what? No, they need to do it week 1 against the Bears.
Yes,
I'm going to say that's a requirement. They have to do that.
There's nothing that would make me happier than to see Jordan Love have more rushing yards than Justin Fields.
Oh, jeez.
I would be insufferable on the Twitter bird, bro, for sure. Any luck over there, Jacob? You seen anything as far as
I've got
rushing?
a couple things here actually. So I'm looking at Prize Picks right now, and we're looking at the season over under is what they have. So they have Aaron Jones at 799.5 yards season rushing yards, but then they also have AJ Dillon at 775 and a half rushing yards. So hold on now. Oh, and then it won't let me go down. So basically, they only have. So Prize Picks will only give. They don't give the whole, projections for the whole teams. This is only when they're very confident in their bets. So right now, they're basically saying that AJ Dillon and Jones are going to split time. And the only thing I will say to that is that I've seen Jordan Love. We've done countless best ball drafts, which basically at this time of year, best ball drafts are just the only thing you do if you're really a fantasy football kind of nut, other than dynasty drafts and hero drafts anyways. We don't get into that. But a lot of times I'm seeing that from a month ago, Christian Watson stock rising up and up and up and up and up. And Jordan Love stock is rising up and up and up and up. And we did this other thing, what's called a superhero flex, basically, where you have 2 possible quarterbacks that you can start in any sort of fantasy football league, which is not normal. Usually you only get 1 quarterback. And Jordan Love now is shooting up the ranks as far as grabbing somebody who could be your possible 2nd or 3rd quarterback. So that being said, there's a little bit more confidence being shown to them. Jaden Reed is going way up the ranks. Romeo Dobbs is one of the most late round steals you can get in this whole draft. And I will say one thing about Luke Musgrave, because I've been typing and texting and shouting and doing all the stuff saying you got to get Luke Musgrave because he's the tight end number 1. Now that I'm thinking about this rationally and I think about what the Packers do, I'm sure Josiah DeGuara will randomly just be tight end number 1. We won't even use Musgrave. We won't even use Tucker Kraft. We'll maybe use Tyler Davis more than any of them, and it's just going to piss me off. So I looked that up, and I thought, well, what can I look for in a first round or a first-year tight end? Since the 2000 era, so since 2000 BC, there's only been 3 modern era tight ends that have done more than 700 yards receiving in their first year. It's Pitts, Evan Ingram, and Shockey in like 2001 or whatever. It's 7 overall in all history. So we need to tamp down our expectations of Luke Musgrave because I'm guilty of it. I'm thinking like I watch him, I'm like, he's so fluid. He grabs
fluidity.
He's so fluid.
Look at those hips.
Water. He's like, and Tucker's just so aggressive. He just runs like he's just gonna, like he's saving a woman, getting whatever. He's just, I'm coming, like Batman. He runs like Batman to a crime scene. And then and so he just sticks but he's really athletic too. And so that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tucker, Musgrave, or like I said, DeGuara. I mean, DeGuara made arguably the most circus catch I've seen out of the OTAs that have been filmed. If you saw it, he's running, makes a great break, just sticks like a one-hand grab across the middle, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. So I don't know, man. I'm just excited. This is such a young team. I've never had this. We've never had this going into the year of Packers season ever. I mean, I've never had it.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, to go way back to the beginning, is that insanely low for Aaron Jones? What did you say, like 700?
Like it was
very low.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, he had over 1,000 last year, and then I went and looked at it. He had his only year under 700 was his rookie year, and he played a half a year because of injury.
So it is. It's 800, 799 and a half. But
in the last 3 years, though, 1,200, 840, and 1125.
You know what? I'm going to make that bet right now.
Just do. I mean, if he gets injured, that sucks. But that's crazy. Yeah.
Hammer it home, man. Pay the bills with it. God, it's wild, man. What are they? And every time I find myself in one of these situations, right, I go, Vegas knows, though. They always know something. You know what I mean?
That's what's making me wonder, especially since everyone's talking about they're going to run more. Even if I don't disagree with it, that's the general thought process. So you got a guy that runs 1,200 yards a year, and now we're going to run more, and he's going to run for 800. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's wild. Let's hop over to defense for a second. Lee in the chat, appreciate you joining us, bro. He says, did they burn Kenny out? Talking about Kenny Clark, and then Mike in the chat right after that said Kenny and Wyatt must step up. When it comes to the defensive line, you're going to be in nickel the majority of the time, which is typically a 2-4-5. They may play a little 3-3 cub. They may play. I would like to see them play a little big nickel where they bring in 3 safeties as opposed to 3 corners. But we'll kind of see how that unfolds. If we're in the nickel the majority of the time, it's going to be most likely Kenny Clark and Devonte Wyatt, right? Can they eat, Ryan? Can they get the job done, dude? I mean, you just talked about with Devonte Wyatt. The tape suggests he's ready to go. I think he's poised to have, a PFF grade in the 70s. If he comes out and has, 600-700 snaps and is effective, I think he can disrupt the pass. It's going to come down to schematics. Hey, look, are we focusing on stopping the run or not? Or are we going to be this kind of bend but don't break top defense? And then Mike in the chat as well, I'll couple this in here with it. He says Lucas Van Ness would be nice in the middle, athlete and strong. The whole comment from Greg Cosell saying that everything he's hearing, they're going to play him on the outside. I'd like to see him on the inside. If they go to some 3-3 cub, then that would probably be a scenario where they would have Lucas Van Ness, Devonte Wyatt, and Kenny Clark as your 3-down lineman and try to mix in a little exotic fire zone looks, from that standpoint. But interior defensive line, dude, Kenny, man, he's got to step up, right? I mean, I know we talk about it all the time, but what do you think's missing there, man? Because he flourished under Mike Pettin, but we always have the caveat of he also had Mike Daniels playing beside him, right? Probably drawing some of that look away. So now he's the focal point. If Devonte Wyatt can draw some of that away from him, hopefully he can have a big year. But what do you think? What's your prediction on Kenny this year? Do you think this is a year he puts it back together?
That's my last thread of hope. Is the last time we saw this guy dominate was when Mike Daniels was there, and as soon as he left, Kenny fell off. So I think it's a flimsy argument at best, but if that is the case, if Wyatt can step up and be a really good defensive tackle, maybe we get Kenny back and we don't just get one really good guy, we get 2 really good guys packaged in one. Again, I'm not holding out hope, but I do hope that has something to do with it. And rather than sticking him at nose tackle where he's trying to 2-gap, maybe we can get another really good pass rusher, focus on him being more of a disruptor, and maybe get something out of him. But if you're told me to put a bet down, I would say we're probably just not going to see that version of Kenny again.
Yeah. I mean, history, suggests it's, if anything, he's going to begin to decline soon. I mean, he's still young, but at the same time, it's like he peaked and now it seems like he's, on his way back down. As far as defensive coverages, between the 20s.
Can I ask one question, Clayton?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Sorry, just because it's a little bit on topic. So we lost Jerron Reed. We lost Dean Lowry. So apparently both of them played 60% of snaps overall in the season. So who would you think? Is it going to be? It has to be Wyatt. And then who else would it be besides that?
Slayton.
It's got to be Slayton because basically he's their only nose. If they don't choose to keep Ford, if they keep Woodford, if they keep Brooks, if they keep who'd be the other one? That'd be about it, right?
That's about it.
Yeah, I'd have to turn and look at my board, and you always giggle when I do this, Jacob. So. Occupy some space here. Talk for a second.
All right. No, I just mean because the encouraging thing is that basically Woodford or Woodford, I don't know how to say it. Woodford and Brooks are people that can play all across the line. I mean, Brooks was a freak. He was like a 300 edge rusher, basically, right? Wasn't he? And if you look at his production, I think he was at kind of not a great school. I shouldn't say great school, but I think it was one where you could say that, well, you're not going against high competition.
Bowling Green, yeah.
Bowling Green, yes. So if that's the case, well, okay, maybe he's focused more into an inside rusher kind of a 3-5 technique. But who's going to be that legit nose tackle backup? They'd say it'd be Slayton and then maybe one of those guys. Who else,
Yeah, I mean, my guess would be it would be Slayton and Jonathan Ford as your traditional noses. I mean, there's a reason they drafted Jonathan Ford. He's got all that size. I know
he's a 7th round guy, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's seen, I think, 0
7th round guy, Ryan.
There it is. There's your
my bias.
Oh, while we're here, can we really quick talk about Brenton Cox?
Yeah,
sure.
Because as far as I'm a sucker for the underdogs, right? But this guy. If you watch his tape, I was going to send you this.
Kind of like Chris Collinsworth. Here's a guy.
Have you ever, by the way, side note, watch Chris Collinsworth on a weird dating show like back in the 80s? You'll never look at him the same. It's really bad. Anyways, Brenton Cox, if you look at his tape, not in the 80s, but if you look at his like highlight tape, it's unreal. And he went from, if you look up a lot of his stats and a lot of the media stuff, the hype around that time, he was a top 50, top 25 guy. He'd maybe be a number one for a first round draft prospect edge defender. For whatever reason, he got kicked off of Florida and Georgia, both of them. So then even after that happened, they projected him anywhere from a 2nd round draft pick to a 4th round draft pick. He fell out of the draft. I'm telling you, I know a highlight reel is a highlight reel for a reason, but you watch this highlight reel, I've never, and I know this is going to sound stupid, I've never seen, and it's a highlight reel, but this guy reads the read option in a way that it's superhuman. Yep. He comes in like a missile, like Polamalu, and maybe I'm missing the facts, or the points when he misses, and maybe it's like 7 out of 10 times he misses, but for that 3 out of 10, oh my God. I mean, it is Myles Garrett level, it's JJ Watt level, it's freak level, and it's not just against the pass. He goes interior rush, he goes outside rush, he goes outside contain, he does a lot of really shedding block stuff, and he doesn't have a lot of weight on him. So imagine if he put on just maybe 10, 15 pounds, if the Packers can get his mind to not be whatever he did. It sounds like he started a lot of fights in practices. It sounds like he was a very aggressive guy. You watch him play. Yeah, he's aggressive. He's very, very aggressive. So
he's going to be mean on Sunday, dude. And I know exactly what you're talking about with the read option. He attacks. That's what they call attacking the mesh point. He attacks the mesh point with freaking reckless abandon, which, Ryan, what did we complain about last week? For God's sakes, can we get linebackers that actually attack the football rather than safeties beating them to the ball? But you talked about that on your pod recently, right? Ryan, about Brenton Cox. I mean, not only did he get kicked off of 2 teams, but it was 2 teams that are really, really lenient on what they allow their. I mean, you got that's too.
I don't want to say murderers, but I mean, let's be honest.
Seriously, right?
It's murderers
all the way down the freaking line, dude, between those two, because it was Georgia and Florida, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have axe murderers coming out of Florida. You have freaking vehicular homicide galore and street racing out of Georgia. And they both said, hey, we don't want anything to do with this guy. I don't know, man. He's either going to be an excellent player, he's going to end up in the UFC, one of the two. What do you think?
I'm a doubter. I'm not a truther. That's for sure. The only thing I keep thinking of is who is that tight end that we picked up? Same exact. There's actually 2 guys.
I know.
It was a tight end that we picked up back in the day. He was this elite tight end, greatest in the world. Nope. No, that's a good point, but no.
His name? Conspiracy guy, right?
Yeah. So he, I forget exactly what, but he had off the field stuff, drugs and alcohol, whatever. And we picked him up. He ended up like leapfrogging a guy, busted his leg. Coaches were super pissed at him. He's like, why are you jumping guys in practice? He ends up sitting on the sideline, gets busted for like drinking and stuff. And he was just an idiot. And he ended up being Colt Lyerla. That's exactly who it is. There was also a Alabama guy we picked up, same exact hype. This guy is a 1st-round prospect, but he's got a heart condition. That's the only reason he fell. And we picked him up. He's a super big stud. he did nothing for us. I mean, he got cleared by the heart condition and all that stuff. So, again, it has nothing to do with Brenton Cox. I'm not saying I watched the guy and I know he sucks. I'm sure he's great, but I'm just saying I've heard it before. It sounds familiar, and until I see I did the same thing with Dobbs, by the way, to be clear. There was all this hype. He's going to be so good. I'm like, yeah. I've heard it before. He's a 4th-round pick. Calm down. And Dobbs actually looked pretty good, and now I'm a little bit more of a believer. But until I see something, I think Brenton Cox is more likely to not be on the team this September than he is to be an actual impact player for us this year.
Gotcha. You got something, Jacob?
No, I was just going to say, that being said, is to me to tuck my hat in hand and come to Ryan for some
No, I'm saying I have no idea. I'm just being biased.
I'm saying that Rasheed Walker, the guy that I was banging the table for, I'm told that Tanuka, he's gonna eat his lunch, and it sounds like that Lou Nichols probably ain't gonna make the team. It's not, you know what I mean? Just little things like this. I was told, or not told. It's not like somebody told me. I read that Lou Nichols
my sources
looks very non-shifty, like not explosive. That Tyler Goodson looks just like Aaron Jones 2.0, and if that's the case, so yeah, it sounds like Grant DeBose. He hasn't even practiced yet, so nobody can know what he looks like. Malik Heath, so now that's my guy. That's my new Juwan Winfrey. That's my new Juwan Winfrey. So Malik Heath, that's my guy. So I'm gonna keep standing up for the underdogs, and Ryan can keep cutting my knees out with an axe, much like that tight end.
Cutting your knees out from under you like you went to Florida. Elevated Sean said, I just can't wait for this season to start, or at least training camp, because if I have to see another video of what if quarterbacks throw left-handed, I'm going to waterboard myself. Some of the conversation, man, especially, I just want to go to NFL Network one day and just sit down with the execs and go, the hell's wrong with you guys? Like, why are you putting this on TV? The conversations, it's unbelievable, man. Just show a classic game and have people talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, do something better.
It's hard to come up with content in the off season, but it ain't that hard.
It ain't. Especially when you got Rodgers speaking at, all these, what do you call it?
Tripadelics.
Yeah.
Psychedelics.
You say tripadelics?
Tripadelics. Sorry, I took one of them.
Anyway. Dakota says, I'm surrounded by crazy people. Y'all just able to join? Well, what kind of crazy people are you surrounded by out there, Dakota? I know you're in Tennessee, but you ain't down there on Meth Avenue, are you, bro? You got to be careful of some of these spots, man. It's getting ugly out here. Simon says, thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun. Love all the content you guys put out. Hey, we appreciate you, Simon. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Let's see. Let's just kind of hit on a few more of these chats. Dakota again says, I'm so excited for this coming season. However, I'm starting to get into the temper your expectations realm of excitement. The team may not live up to the fantasy I'm building up in my head. Hey, I was thinking about that today. I'm going, I am way too happy about this team, like for it to be so unproven. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I don't know, man. When you look at just the structure of it, right, the skeleton of the entire team in the important spots, right? Edge defender. We loaded up again, number 13 pick. We take an edge defender. I think Lucas Van Ness is going to be a star. That's just me personally. I think I think he is as advertised. I think we're going to be very, very happy with him. Work ethic, team guy. Everybody absolutely loves him, and he's a dude who's got just a combination of both strength and speed. You get Rashawn Gary back healthy. Preston Smith, hey, you know how it works, Ryan. 1 year he's up, 1 year he's down. He's going to be up this year, baby.
It's an up year.
Yeah. So if you've got three solid edge defenders, that's the most important aspect of your defense. You're going to be in good shape. Go ahead, Jake.
No, I was just going to say, did you guys see the graphic that Justin, who's on vacation, Justin is on vacation down in Florida and like the whatever part of Florida, I don't care. But he made a graphic for this podcast where it's it's basically like looking at a mirror of Rashawn Gary and LVN. I'm going to start calling him LVN. Is that all right?
Fair enough.
All right, cool. And they're basically looking at each other, but in the background are the super like heroes that they kind of depict. So it was Bane, Gary, and then Hercules.
That's
nice
dope.
job, Justin.
That's super dope.
He did that probably super messed up. I should say super sober in Florida. Trust me, the text messages where I'm getting from him, they don't make any sense.
We actually put that graphic together because I was trying to come up with something, and then I think it was him that pointed out. He said his nickname is actually Hercules. So I was like, "Oh, dude, that's freaking perfect." They'll throw it together. I wasn't expecting him to put him in the background like that over top of Lambeau Field. Absolutely crushed it. Absolutely crushed it.
He's good at what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Simon in chat says, how do you feel about number 69? Okay. Seems like last of the old AR legacy. I loved him in prior years. Hope for the best, but I'm not sure if he is ready to fully turn the page. Ryan, you've hit a lot on this on your pod. I don't know, man. I think Bakhitiari is a pro. I think he's going to come out. I think he's going to play his butt off if he's healthy. I think he's going to be one of the best left tackles in the league. I don't really care what he believes on and off the field politically. I don't care about what conspiracy theories he thinks is true or isn't. That makes no difference to me. I don't get caught up in all of that, which a lot of people do. If he comes out and plays good football and is a team player, I don't really care about the other stuff. But I do think from a financial standpoint, this is probably Bach's last year in Green Bay, unless he's willing to take a pay cut. But the vibe I get, Ryan, he's probably not going to do that, right?
No, and yeah, it's kind of like what you said about Kenny, where it's like I don't want to come off as a hater, but these topics keep coming up and you keep hammering it, and it's like I hate that I keep saying this because I sound like I freaking hate the guy and want to beat the crap out of him or something. But it's not that. It's just I'm just trying to depict a certain side of a story, and I agree. And I've said that about Bakhitiari. He's a good football player, and he's going to play good football this year. The only issue that I've had is I wish he had a different mentality and a different way of talking about things and a different way of relating to people and different priorities. But I think 90% of guys at his age, with the amount of money he makes, they start to kind of adopt that, right? This is my last couple of years in the league. It is what it is. Yeah. And it's, and as a guy who's just sitting here watching, I can sit here and nitpick and say, I wish you were better in these areas, those areas, or whatever, but it is what it is. And again, I think he's going to have a great year. He's always been very good. Even coming back from injury, he came back and he was phenomenal. And I agree. I think it's going to be the end of his thing. And if he was a little bit more Aaron Jonesy in the way that he went about things, maybe I'd be more optimistic about him coming back, not just because of the pay cut, but because the Packers would really want him back. But I also think because of the way that he's dealing with things, even not financially, the Packers would probably be like, all right, I think we need to kind of, so it'll be similar, but not nearly as bad as the Rodgers situation where Bakhitiari realizes it's time to go, Packers realize it's time to go, and we just kind of part ways that way.
Yeah, and I think they'll approach him the same way they did with Aaron Jones. It's obvious they went to Aaron Jones and said, look, your cap number can't be this, right? Yep. We can put some money in your pocket rather than you gambling in the open market, because I don't think he would have came out as good if he went to the open market.
Have you seen the running back market? Ezekiel Elliott is still there. Kareem Hunt is unsigned. If you're a running back in this league, I'm sorry, it's not a discount to sit with your home team that loves you. Yeah, it's smart business.
It's essentially what Jones said, and he was right. He's like, I don't know what you're talking. I'm making the most money I've ever made in my life. I mean, the fact of the matter is the money they promised him was fake money, and I guess he probably just knew that coming into it.
He did.
And he got big time paid. He's one of the top running backs in football, and you're right. If he had tested the market, he'd be sitting out there right now because he's not going to get paid more than what he's getting.
Yeah. Now, the problem with the Bakhitiari situation is that's a premier position, right? People are still willing to overpay. I mean, I think it was McGlinchey. Was it McGlinchey that got a ton of money, right? So, if he were to, if they were to go to him and say, hey, look, are you willing to take a pay cut? We'll put some, guaranteed money in your pocket, lowers our cap hit, and we don't have to kick the can down the road. He's probably going to go, nah, I want to hit the market. And then he'll be out there in the swamps of Jersey playing left tackle for the Jets. It's just a matter of time. Mike in the chat says, I really hope we run creative plays on both sides of the ball. I think we can make the playoffs, but everything has to go almost right. It's a very thin thread, Mike. I completely agree with that. I wanted to hit on these numbers real quick, and we're going to wrap this thing up. I appreciate y'all hopping on with us. Defensive coverages between the 20s. That's what I was going to talk about just a second ago. This really surprised me, Ryan. I'm going to go down and list the percentages of they call these plays. Okay. Cover one, right? Cover one defense, 14.7%, 27th in the league. Okay. Didn't call it a whole lot. Cover two, 5.7%, 27th in the league. Cover three, 36.1%. That was 14th in the league. Quarters coverage, 16.6% of the time. That was 10th most in the league. Wow. Quarter, half, which is basically a cover six, half the field's cover four, half the field's cover two. They called that 13.1% of the time, which is 8th best in the league. That's why you see a lot of players playing off the line of scrimmage because it's on that cover 4 side, right? They're not being aggressive, and they're trying to call that play call, that cover 6 where it's cover 2 on half the field. The cover 2 side, they're trying to match that up with what they've seen on tape of where's going to be the underneath option, because typically what offenses do is they come out and they split the field right in half, and they go, okay, where's my pre-snap hat count? All right, this is my underneath side. This is my over-the-top side. Which side of the field do I want to work? They've got post-snap keys. And the thing that Fangio really likes to do, the Fangio defense, which is ran by Joe Barry, what they like to do is they want to remove any amount of information a quarterback can decipher pre-snap. They want everything to have to be determined post-snap because that increases your chances of them making a mistake. That's why they always show that too high look. And, of course, they played cover 5, just 1% of the time. But this was the one that caught me off guard, man. They ran cover 0 3.1% of the time. 3.1% of the time. That was 6th most in the National Football League. Cover 0 basically meaning nobody is deep. This is just straight man coverage, cover 0, no safeties on the shelf. I'm thinking that in that 3.1% percent of the time or 3.6% of the time that was, they were probably going, all right, this is a run situation. And we're more confused than a fart in a fan factory when it comes to run defense. Let's just put everybody up on the line of scrimmage, play straight up 0 man, and let's try to stop the run here. It's the only thing I can come up with. But those numbers kind of caught me off guard a little bit when it came to the cover 0. And, with the corners we got, I'm okay with it, dude. Like we've talked about in the past, be aggressive. Be aggressive. Yeah. If you get beat, you get beat, right? It's just this whole playing on your heels type thing. I just wanted to point that out because when you're in quarters and you're in quarter, half, that cover 6, that's why you're seeing those corners kind of play off the line of scrimmage a little bit there. Simon in the chat said, you guys are really the same age. He's thinking, look at Clayton's forehead, dude. That dude's 112 years old. Are you kidding me? All right, let's see here. Chris in the chat, I'm loving this energy. He says, say it, Jacob. Is that woo?
Woo!
There it is. Go Pack, go Pack, go. Bring the Pack energy, baby. Let's go. I love the enthusiasm, man. Love it, love it, love it. Trying to see if there's anybody we missed in here. I know Mike's been very active in the chat. There we go. There's our boy Nate in the chat. Y'all are late on the Jordan Love hot tea.
I'm not.
Oh boy, I'll tell you.
I've been banging that drum for a while.
You cute little people, you. Nate says, yeah, okay, there it is again. He just topped it twice. Make sure it went.
Yeah, no, make sure you get it. Yeah.
Double stamp. Can't triple stamp, but double stamp.
Yeah. Will Bakhitiari count as a comp pick next year from Ian? That is a great question.
That's
Ryan,
what I said.
Are you intelligent enough to answer that question? Because I'm not.
Well, my assumption is they would trade him because I think his contract is such that we can get some value. But yeah, if we have to for whatever reason end up cutting him, he's going to get paid a massive amount of money, and we should get a comp pick out of that.
Yeah, got it. All right, cool. Well, here's Andy Monday back in the chat. He says no comp pick if he's released. Only natural free agents count towards comp picks.
I'm wrong.
Like Lazard this next year. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I try not to dive too much into the comp pick talk because it's so. If the wind's blowing 3 miles an hour out of the west and they're released before August, it's just crazy, dude. Crazy. And then Zach, we'll end it with this. Zachary in the chat says, hello, boys. Keep doing God's work. Love the pod. We appreciate you, Zach. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Let's go around the horn here as we wrap this thing up. Jacob, got anything, man? Anything you want to hit on before we go? Anything else you're excited about as we wrap this baby up?
Honestly, no. I will say that, again, for the fantasy the prospect of looking at through a fantasy football eye, like I said, Luke Musgrave is falling into the later rounds, but Josiah DeGuara is not getting drafted. So with your last pick, the last pick of any best ball of any draft you do, just grab Josiah DeGuara, because I guarantee you that is such the Packers move to draft 2, early round tight ends and then never use them and just use DeGuara. And Tyler Davis, for all that matter, who knows? So
Tyler Davis, saying, 7 tuds. I'm calling it now.
It is worth your last round pick in any way. Just do it. You won't feel bad about it.
Jacob, that SIF block, man. Tyler Davis got that SIF block, bro. We talked about all year.
About this.
Just leak out the backside. That sounded bad. We ain't gonna talk about it. Anyway, Ryan, go ahead. Man. Last thing here as we wrap up, bro.
Yeah, so one of the comments earlier was talking about kind of slowing the hype train down a little bit on the team, and I feel like I'm kind of getting to that point too. But I think it's because I've spent so much time defending every single corner of this team against people for saying stupid crap that I realized for months I've been sitting here just talking about how great everybody's going to be, and it's like, oh shoot, I gotta slow this down and really think about what I'm talking about here.
So break.
I not only do I not want to give that impression that that's what I think, I'm just counteracting that, but I'm also starting to adopt that. Like, dude, we're going to be. It's like I don't know. So, yeah.
Can you do me a favor and just look at Brenton Cox's tape, or
yes, yeah, I will
just
do that.
Do a little segment on it and tell me if I'm crazy, and if I'm crazy, just call me out. I don't care. But just look at it.
I'm working on Edge right now. That's next on the list. So I wasn't planning on watching it, but I will do that in your honor, and I will see what happens there.
Can I send you the highlight tape?
Yeah. Send me the. I'll just go off that. That's less work for me to do. So I'll just do the highlight, and I'll just go off of that. That's easier. No, but again, I am excited about the team, but there's I think a lot of unknowns, and just be careful what you're putting out there because people are collecting receipts, and I am going to get absolutely beat to death if the Bears beat the Packers. That's all I know. So be excited, but be careful with putting your foot in your mouth about stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, dude, I've listened to all your content, and I've seen everything you posted on Twitter. There's not one point where you've said, I guarantee you they're going to beat the Bears. Now they'll
right.
It's people hear what they want to hear, I guess is the best way to put it. But the thing is, just like Greg Cosell said, we don't know what the Packers are. Anyone who says they do,
yeah, right, exactly,
are kidding themselves. And I don't mean to call him out, but Nate's saying, "Hey, y'all are late on the Jordan hype or the Jordan Love hype tea, dude." So you're going to come back and go, "Okay, I was wrong." If he absolutely craps the bed, probably not. Everybody's guilty of that, right? We all make a comment, and later on, you're so quick to point out other people's mistakes.
Jawan Winfrey.
Yeah, right. That guy. Well, you heard me last year, dude, with Kenny Clark. I seen him in a tight T-shirt walking in the 1265, and I'm like, "Oh, that's it, bro. We're this best defense in the league right here, right?" I'm as guilty as anybody. But again, dude, that's what the off season's for, right? Is getting excited and bridging that gap till we get to training camp. And it's right around the corner. I'm so sick of people going 70 some days till football. No, it ain't, dude. When training camp gets here, it's football, baby.
It's football.
That's the way I see it. So anyway, I want to thank everybody in the chat. Everybody who joined us, Mr. Green, Andy, you guys are awesome, dude. Like I told Jacob a couple weeks ago, as soon as you guys realize all you need is a microphone, you could throw me off this horse. I'm done. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. Ryan, thank you for taking time to jump on. Jacob, you too, man. So we're going to get out of here. Hope everybody has an awesome day. You guys will probably be hearing this on the pod, I'm sure, probably around noon on Monday. So hope you have an awesome work day. Appreciate you making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Go Pack, go.
To left to restart the game. And this one carrying into the end zone about 4 yards deep. Here comes Nixon to the 5. Left hash marks 10, 15. Hits a hole hard. He's to the 25, 30. Breaks into the clear. Keyshawn Nixon is off to the races. It's Secretary to the Belmont. Down the stretch in time. No one will catch him. It's a touchdown. My goodness.
Came into the game, Wayne, questionable with a groin injury. Didn't practice all week. And he just took it right up the gut through the heart of the Minnesota Viking coverage unit.